Hey everyone. How's everyone doing? Happy Sabbath. Blessings to anyone and everyone who's watching this. For those of you who are watching this who might not know who I am, my name is George. I'm part of the leadership team at the Geelong Adventist Church. And just want to check in, say Happy Sabbath, and ask how everyone is doing. Comment on this video. That'd be great. I definitely miss seeing all of you together. We meet up on Sabbath and even through the week. Just catching up as a community. Really been missing that through this time. I think we've taken getting together with friends and as a church for granted. Hey, it's something that we just did every week and we appreciate it, but not the way that I think we'll come back to appreciating it when we come back together again as a community and just as friends and family as well. My week's been massive. Hey, I've had a pretty big week just with work and with life. And I guess the last year or so of life has brought a lot of challenges, which has meant if I have a massive week, I struggle a fair bit with anxiety, but just working through that. And therapy's not a bad thing, hey guys. Definitely speaking to the men that might be watching this video as well. Don't be afraid to reach out and connect with people and share if you are struggling. I'd love to hear what all of you guys are up to. I've just been down at the beach. It's sort of raining outside a bit now, hey, but it's amazing when you tell people that the only reason they can go outside, one of the only reasons they can go outside is to exercise. How many people have gotten out and exercising? I've never seen so many people on bikes and running and just getting out as a family and doing things outdoors. It's amazing. And just being able to come down to the beach at the end of a long week, especially on the Sabbath, it's just, to spend time with God, just appreciating the nature. It's magical, hey, it's really good. Encourage all of you to get out. If you haven't already today, before the sun goes down, and just experience the outdoors and the nature. Even with the rain, it's beautiful. How we've been going as a church, I think this time has definitely challenged us all as a church community, hey, about how how we see ourselves as a community within the greater community of Geelong, how healthy our level of connection with each other is. When the weekly getting together at a building doesn't happen, how well are we all connected? How well are we relating to each other, reaching out to each other? And how well are we actually connecting with our community, with Geelong, with the city around us, both as individuals and as a church community? I don't know how much you guys have been thinking about that, but that's definitely been something that I've been thinking about and just reflecting on as the whole sort of way we do church and be church has changed up over this time. Also, I guess each of us has been impacted by this differently. I know for myself, my work's just I work as an arborist with the trade, so I'm still climbing trees every day, and it's just work as normal. But the world around me has changed or stopped in a lot of ways. And I know for some of you, like, you're not working or you're working from home. Everyone's, at least all of us, are experiencing separation from catching up in person with each other or with our friends, with our family in various ways. And I just wanted to touch on a verse that just reflects on that or connects with that just a little bit. If you've got a Bible with you on your device or however you're watching this video, it's in Philippians in the New Testament. Philippians Chapter 4 and verse 11 to 13. I'm just going to read that for us. It says, sorry guys, it's right on the edge of my page. Not that I speak in regard to need, for I have learned in whatever state I am to be content. I know how to be abased, and I know how to abound. Everywhere and in all things I have learned both to be full and to be hungry, both to abound and to suffer need. And that's Paul speaking, and I think that's particularly relevant to us in this time, that just to be content. If you have space and time right now, if you're not at work, embrace that time and invest in it. When you're back at work, you're going to miss having just that space and that opportunity. And if you're still at work, if you're still busy, I guess just appreciate in a new way the blessing of being financially secure and productive, and being able to just, like, I'm super blessed. My work takes me at least to Melbourne and down the coast to lawn and things, and I'm still able to get out and about on a daily basis, and just appreciating that so much more. And I think, Paul's definitely speaking to all of us, just saying, be where you are, embrace what you're going through, no matter your circumstances or whatever's taking place around you. There's always an opportunity and a blessing and a lesson in whatever you're going through. So make the most of that. Whatever space the COVID situation has created for you in your circumstances, just lean into that and invest in that and be where you are. That would be my encouragement there. I guess thinking a bit further about this situation that we're all going through right now with COVID, everyone, all the statistics that we read in the news about the death toll, whether it's in Victoria or Australia or around the world, situations of like a lack of protective equipment with medical staff, or overwork, or just family that's connected or separated, people trapped on cruise ships. There's all these different stories that come around, and it's sort of presented in the media over and over again, or in numbers and figures. And so I guess sometimes that helps us or enables us to somehow disconnect or separate ourselves from those stories. But all of those people, if you were to zoom in and be present in those situations, they're all real people with real stories in real time, with real families and real connections and struggles in that. So there's a lot of people that are struggling, socially, physically, emotionally, spiritually, relationally, financially, during this time in a lot of different ways. So I just encourage all of you to be extra gracious to those around you at this time. Just find new ways, consider different ways, better ways you can reach out and share and connect and engage with your community. What are some ways? I encourage you to comment on this video below, if it's on Facebook or YouTube that you see it. Comment and share. What have you done differently? How you're experiencing life at the moment? I've noticed one of our members, Marge, I've seen you like doing out and about, doing Facebook lives, and people getting on board. You're out riding your bike, love it. Just love the conversation that was happening, and just encouraging people to get out and just experience God's nature. That was really cool. I know something I did, which I didn't imagine myself doing. I sent in a submission to a virtual choir. So recorded a song a cappella, and then you send it in, and then they're going to put them all together and make a virtual choir. So we're yet to find out. I'm yet to find out if I can sing. I'll let you guys all know when this video comes out. I'm assuming it's going to be soon, but that was just something I did differently that I probably wouldn't have done if this wasn't happening right now. So I just encourage you guys, look for those opportunities to challenge yourself and do things a bit differently, or do things new in this time. Something else, I was really encouraged. I saw some connections at One Hope Baptist Church have created an initiative where they're sending out letterbox cards to people in their street, and they've created a Facebook group just for their street. And they're reaching out to people in their street, asking if anyone needs support, if there's like old people that need shopping done, or things done for them, if everyone else can just get together and support anyone in need in their street, which is really cool, because we often only know like the neighbors directly next to us, perhaps maybe the person across the road. I feel as a society we've gotten less in touch with the people that live around us as we live in this digital world, this fast-paced world. So that's just a really cool way of even using technology, using things like Facebook to create a group, a private group, where as a street community you can share and support each other. So the idea floated, and myself and my housemates have spoken about it this week. We're gonna letterbox our street just with our details and the link to a Facebook group that people can join, and then we can all get together as a community and just support anyone in need or anyone vulnerable in our street. And then hopefully when this is all over, we can all just meet and connect better with the people that live around us. So that's just another cool idea that's come out of this current scenario. Doing new and positive things through it. I want to thank everyone that's been connecting to the Facebook group, We've got a main Facebook page, except for the Geelong Seventh Adventist Church, and then we've got a group within that page, Geelong Adventist Connections. Join the group, interact as a church family, as a community. Yeah, love everyone that's been posting in there. Keep sharing. Let's stay connected, and do that in all the other ways that you're still doing it. Phone calls, messages. Reach out and connect with each other. I've loved Sabbath School. I've mostly been a part of the young adult Sabbath School and the high school Sabbath School over this time, but loved everyone. The conversations on Zoom have been really cool. Collins had Friday night Vespers. There's prayer on Tuesday nights. I'm loving all the ways that our church is connecting, and just encourage you all to keep building that and growing that, both within our community and outside of our community as we share God's love. How is everyone's faith today on this Sabbath? I guess as part of this video, I wanted to share not necessarily a sermon, but just some things that I've been thinking about lately, or things that I've been studying or developing in my own journey and understanding of God. And I wanted to share with you this book. Just want to give a shout out to Tao. Love this guy. I love his passion for ministry, his heart for people. It's just been a real pleasure having him on board the pastoral team at Geelong Adventist Church. He gave me this book recently, The Sonship of Christ, Exploring the Covenant Identity of God and Man. It's written by Ty Gibson, and I'm only halfway through it so far, but it's been a really good read. And Tao, thanks heaps for the book. Appreciate the love and just sharing something good with each other. That's a really cool idea, and I've definitely benefited from it. I wrote down just I guess a couple of things I wanted to share out of that. The Sonship of Christ. A couple of questions around that. Think about it. What does the Sonship of Christ mean to you? In what way is Jesus God's Son? And how does your perception of Jesus as God's Son impact your understanding of the nature or the love of God? How is that concept meaningful to your faith and how you see God? I think when we first hear the concept, the Son of God, perhaps we attach it to our human concept, where we are all sons who had a father and they were before us and we came after them. And so is Jesus eternal in the same sense that God the Father is eternal? And does that even matter? God isn't afraid of your questions, hey? Like, sometimes these things, like, does it even matter? God isn't afraid of your questions. Some of the things that even now, but just thinking back early on or as my faith has grown, some of the things that I was afraid to question about God, when I look deeper, have become some of the most beautiful things, or some of the best things that I understand about God. So God is not afraid of your questions. He stood the test of time, just like the Bible's not afraid of your questions. There is always a meaningful answer and a meaningful conversation to be had around any question that you have about God, you have about faith, you have about spirituality, the Bible, the meaning of life, all of those things. But just bring it directly at the moment to the Sonship of Christ. On one hand, the Bible calls Jesus the only begotten Son of God, John 3:16, right? And then we also have in John 14:28, just to give you some verses, John 14:28 and 1 Corinthians 5:27 onwards, they will imply that Jesus is somehow under or subordinate or submissive to the Father. But then on the other hand, we have verses, I wrote some down, Philippians 2:5-6, John 1 verses 1-3, Exodus 3:14, John 8:58, Revelation 1:8, Isaiah 9:6, that state things like Jesus is in very nature God, and he shares equality with God, and he made all things. He's the creator, and he's called the I Am, and even in I think it's Isaiah 9:6, the everlasting Father. So there seems to be this tension between these two identities, or these two ways of looking at Jesus and his nature as God. And in looking at that, and just studying through this book, and Ty Gibson presents it, perhaps there's a solution to the connecting of these two ideas that doesn't just release that tension, but also reveals a beautiful picture of who God is. And I've understood for a long time, I guess, especially as a Seventh-day Adventist, that God is three co-eternal persons: the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, right? And the beautiful significance of that, and what it teaches us about the nature of God and his love for us, is something that's definitely evolved or grown in my understanding as I've been on this faith journey. And Ty Gibson covers in this book that I've just shared, covers everything in the Bible that relates to that in some detail. But I just wanted to share two things that really resonated with me about the Sonship of Christ from Ty's book. And firstly, the Bible is very clear, right, that God is love. He's not just loving. He's not just love some of the time. He doesn't just participate in some of the things that love does. He is the very substance and nature of love. And love, we understand, if you look at the love chapter, 1 Corinthians 13, we get God's definition of love. And one of those things being selflessness. It's other-centered. It does not seek its own. And if you think about that and the characteristics of love that God gives us, ask yourself the question, what is the minimum numerical value of love? What is the minimum numerical value of love? Just think about that question for a moment, especially if you've never considered that question before. And I want to put to you that the answer is 3. 3 is the minimum. It can be more than 3, but the minimum is 3. And to understand that, I guess, if there's just one person, or even if there's 2 people, no sharing of the other is required. You don't have to share that other person with anyone else. They're your world, you are their world, and you can still be selfish with that other person. It takes 3 persons in order for love to express itself fully in a selfless way. There are many ways that you can unpack that concept further, talking about love and why the minimum is 3. But one of the cool ways, I think that was done in Romans, if you still got your Bibles with you, Romans 1, Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, Acts, Romans, New Testament still. So Romans chapter 1 and verse 20. It says, "For since the creation of the world, his invisible attributes are clearly seen, being understood by the things that are made, even his eternal power and Godhead, so that they are without excuse." So the Bible's telling us that God's nature, who he is, can be understood, or is understood, is seen by the things that are made, is seen in nature. That's one of the ways that God reveals himself to us. And one of the cool things that was pulled out in this book is, in physics, there is something that is referred to as the rule of 3s. And it's in which the entire physical world is, it displays what's called a geometrical tendency to organize in units of 3 on an infinitely expansive scale. So from the very smallest things to the very largest things, everything gets together in groups of 3. So look that up, physics and the rule of 3s. And along with that, there are 3 types of stable particles. There's the proton, the neutron, and the electron. And these are the 3 building blocks of atoms. And each proton and each neutron is built from smaller particles called quarks. And each of those is made up of 3 quarks. So even in nature, the minimum number of relational cohesion between these particles, these atoms, these electrons, these quarks, the minimum number of relational cohesion in subatomic matter is 3, even in nature. And that's just a pretty cool way that this was related and unfolded, that there is 3s. If you unpack physics and maths and nature, there is just 3s in everything, and that's how things collect and come together in relationship. And if God is love, this is sort of the summary of it, I guess. If God is love, and love is the relational dynamic that requires a minimum of 3, then God is and always has been a relational dynamic of 3 persons. And that's pretty cool in the fact that it reveals the fullness of love that God is, that he is selfless, that he is other-centered. And the really cool thing for us is that his love is focused even on us. Secondly, the key reason in the Bible that Jesus is referred to as the Son of God is because of the promise or the covenant that God made with humanity. A covenant being a promise of relational integrity. And Adam was the first son of God, right? And he failed, in a sense, in his sonship role. And mankind from that moment has been eternally separated, or at least in effect to that degree was the outcome, that mankind was going to be eternally separated from God. And everyone born under Adam is under that same separation from God. We have that same tendency to fall to temptation, to sin, to be selfish. However, God made a promise to restore that relationship, to restore perfect relational faithfulness between both us and him, and between humanity with each other. And he did that through promising a lineage, or a line of people that through which a new son of God would be born. Adam being the first son of God. So first we had Abraham, the son of God. Then we had Isaac, the son of God. Then Jacob, the son of God. Then we had Israel, then David, then Solomon. And none of these were the one, right? They were all still men under Adam who fell to temptation and to sin in their lives. Definitely all men of God, but they weren't the one. They weren't the son of God. And yet they were all building towards the promised birth of the offspring of the new Adam that was to come. A human being who would be called the Son of God, who would live in perfect love and relational faithfulness to God and to man, who would endure temptation and thus create a way to re-establish humanity in right relation to God. And I guess someone asked me the question, and there's many ways this perhaps could be answered, but someone asked me the question when I was studying this: why did it have to be God? If God needed a new son of God, he needed a new Adam, why couldn't he just create another one? Like, just create another Adam, and then we could all be adopted by that Adam and somehow sort of skip out from the first Adam that way and just create another being. And I guess I thought about that, and if you think about the two things that God needed to do after Adam fell, after humanity was separated: one, it was to restore humanity to himself in relationship. And secondly, he had to vindicate his character. Part of what happened in the fall was the character of God was defamed. Satan put forward that God was vindictive, that he was controlling, that he was holding humanity back from their full potential, that he was forceful, that he was oppressive. And that was obviously, well, we understand it to be a complete lie about the character of God. And part of restoring humanity to himself, restoring perfect relational faithfulness, is God wanting us to love him with our free will, trusting his character of love. And to demonstrate that was one of the reasons as well that contributed to God giving himself. If you think about, say you're on the beach, say you're a father or a parent, and you're on the beach with your son, and someone comes along and says, your dad, he's not a good person. He doesn't really love you. If you get into trouble, he's not gonna come and save you. He's not gonna look out for you. And then to demonstrate that, they pick you up and they throw you out in the deep water where you can't survive on your own. You're going to drown, right? And you believe in your dad, so you're like, Dad, like, you're just waiting for him. You know he's gonna come and save you. But he doesn't. He starts to like call other people on the beach and like send them out and be like, can you go and save my son? And even if one of those people comes and saves you, your trust and your faith in your father to be who you believed him to be is forever going to be marred by the fact that you were in the deep water, you were struggling, and he didn't come for you. And God is not that sort of God. When you're in trouble, he sends himself. And I guess part of the other reason we don't believe that, or I don't believe that Jesus was God's son in the literal sense that he came after God, is then in some ways would be sort of subscribing to child sacrifice. And we know that was something that God definitely held against a lot of the nations around Israel in the Old Testament, that they used to sacrifice their sons and their daughters to different gods as acts of worship. And God didn't create another Adam. He didn't create a son to give. He gave himself. God gave himself for us. And the reason Jesus is called the Son of God is because he had to fulfill that covenant promise and be the new Son of God that Adam wasn't. And if you look at Jesus' life, he lived through all the experiences that Adam had, and he lived through all the experiences of the nations of Israel. The parallels between Jesus' life and the nations of Israel is like unmistakable. You pull out scripture and you compare Jesus' life with all the things that Israel went through. They're just one after the other. We see how Jesus lived their experience, but in perfect faithfulness to God. He never fell. He endured temptation. And he did all of that. He never sinned. And then he laid down his life on our behalf. And because of that, Jesus invites each of us to be born again. Not as sons of Adam, but as sons and daughters of God, in perfect relationship with God, being restored in relationship to him, that he might pour into us, that we might receive from him, and that we might be restored and redeemed to his likeness in love and faithfulness, relational faithfulness. God's love is complete. It's selfless, it's merciful, it's abundant, and it's richer and more beautiful the deeper that you understand it. And I encourage all of you to, in your Christian journey, in your faith journey, in your spiritual journey, to explore the love of God more. Don't bring your ideas to Scripture, to the Bible, of the love that you have experienced, perhaps from other people as a child, through whatever relationships you've been through. Don't bring your experience of what love is. Come to the Bible with an open mind to learn from God what love is. Come close to God and realize a love that you can trust, that is truly beautiful. My Christian love to you all. I pray for you all in your life and your faith journeys and everything that you're going through, everything you're pursuing, everything that you're growing in. Blessings to you all. Blessings for the week ahead. Let's all draw closer to Jesus through this time. Let's spend time with him. Let's better share his love with each other, with ourselves, and with the community around us in meaningful ways. Remember, you are the church.